In Hebrews 2:9, we have a declaration about Jesus that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. Now, I am somebody who affirms unlimited atonement, and by that I mean Jesus paid for the sins of all of humanity, as opposed to only the sins of the elect of humanity, which is what a consistent five-point Calvinist who believes in limited atonement would affirm. Now, out of fairness, the people who advocate for that limited atonement will take you to verse 10, which is a continuation of the context, where it says, "For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons into glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings." So they would just simply be pointing out that to them, like when the limited atonement Calvinist reads this, they think that that means that every man from Hebrews 2:9 is defined as the many sons unto glory. So obviously, because I also affirm unconditional election, to them, Hebrews 2:10 explains Hebrews 2:9 by saying that these are really just the elect that Christ tasted death for. Now, it's reasonable to an extent, and obviously there's some contextual basis for this, and for those who want to get really upset about Calvinists who teach it this way, well, I do want to say out of fairness, I mean they have a point to be considered. This isn't something we can just brush off. That being said, I still affirm that Hebrews 2:9, when it speaks of tasted death for every man, that it is referring to every single human being as opposed to just the sons unto glory. And this actually has to do with the earlier context, which I don't think is being properly considered by the Calvinists. Because this is really how we deal with things. If you have immediate context, use that as your primary way to interpret the Bible. Because if you depart from that, and I do want to be careful about that, because again, there are places, for example, where immediate context could lead you astray. In fact, it sometimes may lead you astray because of other things the Bible teaches in context. So basically what I'm saying is that if you're ever going to justify a reason for believing something, it should be because of immediate context somewhere, as opposed to just mixing and matching as you will, because then anybody can come up with just about any doctrine. But anyway, so in Hebrews 2, so I'll say from verse 6, "But one in a certain place testified, saying, What is man, that thou art mindful of him? Or the Son of Man, that thou visitest him? Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownedest him with glory and honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But we see not yet, but now we see not yet all things put under him. But we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man." So Hebrews 2 is showing us, for example, that when Psalm 8, which is what it's quoting from, when it's talking about what is man and the Son of Man, well, yes, you can absolutely look at that as Jesus Christ, but we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels, and of course, from Psalm 8, which Hebrews 2 is quoting from, man is made a little lower than the angels. However, you must also understand that Psalm 8, it's first and foremost, the way it reads, it's speaking about humanity, but it's perfectly applicable to Jesus Christ as well as the Son of Man. So it isn't a question of, who's being referred to when Psalm 8 is being quoted in Hebrews 2. There is a both and thing going on here. Of course, humanity is not Jesus, but Jesus is, humanity's head representative, if that makes any sense. He's the opposite of Adam. He's the good Adam. He's the last Adam versus, you have the first Adam who sinned, but you have the second Adam, the last Adam, who's perfect and incorruptible. So, when you understand that Psalm 8 is referring to both Jesus and humanity, and of course, Hebrews 2 is quoting this passage. So, what do we have here? Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownest him with glory and honor, and to set him over the works of thy hands. And this, again, this perfectly applicable to humanity, all of humanity. There's no exception in this. God has put all of humanity in authority over the works of his hands. Thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him. And then when you look at Psalm 8, it does talk about things like in the heavenlies. So, if you think about 1 Corinthians 15, about how, this corruptible is going to have a heavenly body, it's going to have a celestial body, an incorruptible body. I think that's going to be kind of the full manifestation of, again, being either being equal to or higher than the angels. So, what I'm trying to point out here is because all of humanity is in view, just by the fact of what is man that thou art mindful of him, or the son of man that thou visitest him. Well, that's all of humanity. And again, I know you could say, well, what about daughters? Well, the default person the Bible addresses is a man. Okay, and if you want to, take the whole basically having dominion over God's creation, well, you go back to Genesis. I think it's Genesis 1 and 2, where it's the woman and the man together are having dominion over the works of God's hands, over the animals, the planet, things of this nature. So doesn't it then make sense that if all of humanity is in view, then and all of humanity is made a little lower than the angels, which of course it is, duh, that he, being Jesus, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. Why? And because all of man is made a little lower than the angels. And for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Again, it's the world, and then whosoever believeth that's in the world. Okay, as opposed to whosoever believeth not that's in the world. Okay, so again, I'm bringing in a different passage, but I think it's perfectly applicable, and it should definitely be considered with Hebrews 2. So, yeah, I'm just simply pointing out that the quotation from Psalm 8 makes this perfectly applicable to all of humanity, that he, by the grace of God, should taste death for every man. Because I'm sorry, but you just can't get elect man versus non-elect man from Psalm 8. No, that's all of humanity was created to have dominion over the works of God's hand. It's not just some or the other. Now, of course, in the final analysis, again, there's going to be people in hell versus people in new heavens and new earth. Okay, I get that. But while we're here on the earth in our temporal state with corruptible bodies, yes, even now we have dominion over the works of God's hands that he has given to us. Amen. Thank you.